For edifying and refreshing contents, watch Revival and Reformation Television. You will not be disappointed.
Hi everyone, my name is Taiwo Oyemade.
And my name is John Kenny.
I'd like to welcome you all to the Gospel Culture Show.
Gospel Culture Show, hosting
here on
the
Revival and Reformation TV. First of all, I want to thank all the guys behind the scenes in the Revival and Reformation TV.
Yep.
Great guys, giving us all the support that we need to bring this to you. Every week,
making sure that there's a show running.
Yes. Thank you so much, Bishop Ibrahim Olale, for giving us this platform to express the things that God has put in our hearts.
Yeah,
and all the guys working behind the scenes. You guys are fantastic.
Beautiful.
You show us how to do Christian ministry, consistency every time, and that's the biggest thing about ministry. The ability to show up and keep showing up.
Yeah,
and being consistent.
Yeah.
We are really inspired. And I think that's a big lesson for somebody also watching us, that if God is calling you, know that God is calling you to hard work. Even if, I was watching a show recently, The House of David, that show that is airing on Prime TV and
Amazon Prime.
And as I watch the show, even if God's going to ordain you a king, you're still going to have to fight wars.
There's going to be a demand for courage.
There's
no one that
God has showing up.
There's no one that God has called that has not been required to be courageous.
Yeah.
Because truly, what God is always calling man to is already occupied territory.
I want to continue from where we stopped in Rediscovering Greatness. We're tempted to talk about some other stuff, but I think that we need to dig in a little more.
Yeah.
Particularly because in our last episode we talked about we mentioned God's commands.
Jesus' yardstick for measuring who the greatest is in the kingdom is
obedience to God's command.
Remember that he was saying that whoever obeys his commands and teaches others to will be considered to be the greatest.
So this is the kind of question that comes up in my mind.
Yeah.
Or two-part question.
Yeah.
What is God's command? Number one. Can I do everything? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
One of our friends, Pastor John, Dr. John Oyenira, was doing an exposition on social media and was
John Oyenira, PhD.
PhD, yeah. Thank you for him.
No, but he said doctor now, so already.
I know.
Someone might confuse and think.
I think he's a medical doctor
or animal doctor.
So I say it right now. Anyway, so it was in a exposition and it was trying to make a delineation between categories of the laws of God. There were laws for the nation state of Israel. There were laws for temple worship, and then there are laws that do not affect that transcend the nation of Israel or temple worship essentially. And so somebody is thinking, there are laws like you cannot sew two patches of cloth together.
Intense.
So, and one of the ways we are able to understand what Christ was saying is by reading Matthew 23 verse 37.
Yeah. When this puts a summary of some sort.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And which one of the things that makes us appreciate Jesus?
And the passage we're about to read is going to show us what we said in an episode before now. What we were saying that Jesus came to fulfill the law.
That's exactly where I'm going to.
So instead of itemizing all the laws, Jesus gives us these two sets of laws that are not
encapsulate practically every law.
Summary is not adequate because they were not given as an intent to summarize.
They were more or less
what the law is about. That means what the law intended to achieve.
Yeah. when you look at it, I mean, let's read it.
Yep.
Let's read it. Matthew chapter 22. Let's start from verse 37 or verse 36. Somebody asked, "Teacher, which is the most important commandment in the law of Moses?" Jesus replied, "You must love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment."
The first and the greatest.
It's the first and greatest. And 39. A second is equally important. Love your neighbor as yourself. Why did I use the word summary? Verse 40. The entire law and all the demands of the prophets are based on these two commands.
No, when I talk about fulfillment, you see what TPT says.
Okay.
TPT, Matthew 22 verse 40. I have to read it because of the word fulfillment we used earlier.
Okay.
Contained within these commandments to love, you will find all the meaning of the law and the prophets.
Wow.
The meaning. So meaning that if a man keeps these two super commandments, as you put it in your book, in the love vision. These two super commandments.
No, in our book. I'm
technically speaking. So, meaning that if anybody keeps these two super commandments, he has practically kept the law, because it shows us that what this commandment shows us what God intended to achieve.
Exactly.
With the laws. Yeah.
I mean, again, we see Apostle Paul writing in Galatians chapter 5 verse 14, a very remarkable statement. And if you open Galatians 5:14, here's what he says.
Galatians 5:14.
14. For the whole law
can
be summed up in this one command.
Yes.
Love your neighbor as yourself.
So meaning everything was intended to get men to that state.
So, I mean, which one of the beauties of following Jesus? When you follow Jesus, things don't become ambiguous anymore.
The clarity is there. You know exactly what God desires.
For me, beyond clarity is even the fact that it comes down to one thing. And it just sort of gives us the key to unlocking everything else. If you can apply your heart to these two commandments, loving the Lord with all your heart and all your soul and all your mind and all your strength.
That one you just said now shows more of loving God with all your internal.
What's going on within you? What is internal. Within you?
All your
blessed Lord of my soul
and all that is
within me. That's Psalm 103. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
So
all internal.
And the second one says, love your neighbor as yourself. Now, Paul is writing and he's saying that actually, if you want to pull everything, one law.
I mean, because that one is loving the Lord with all your externals.
And you can't love people if you don't love God, essentially.
No, you can't love God if you don't love people, is what you want to say.
It works both ways, actually.
Because truly, that's what John was saying in 1 John chapter 4.
Yeah. Chapter 2.
No, it's 4. He said it in 4. He said it also in 5.
He said it in 4. Yeah, he said it in 4.
If you love God, in 5 verse 1, he says, if you love God, you will love his children. In chapter 4, he was talking about the fact that how can you claim to love God your that God. You do not see when you don't love people that you can see? So when Paul said in Galatians that this is the summary of everything, it means that when a man attempts to begin to love his neighbor as he loves himself, he's actually using it to show that he loves God deeply on the inside.
Wow.
However,
I'm waiting for
however, Jesus one day is teaching in John 13, somewhere else again, he talks about it in John 15 verse 12, and he's saying, a new commandment I'm giving to you.
That's I don't know.
Don't forget, all this is on the backdrop of the fact that we said in the previous episode,
that
who is the greatest in God's kingdom? Anybody who keeps God's command and teaches others to do so.
That's Matthew 5, verse
19.
Verse 18. I tell you the truth, until heaven and earth disappear, not even the smallest detail of God's law will disappear until his purpose is achieved. So if you ignore the least commandment,
his purpose is achieved. And we have just described the purpose of the law,
which is to bring men to love God and to love our neighbor as ourselves. So you were saying something about Jesus giving a new command.
I was not saying, however, there's a slight adjustment to the command. It is still God giving this command, because God is Jesus.
Or Jesus is God.
But this is a challenge. Before now, in the passage we just read in Matthew 22, we see that, and the passage in Galatians.
Yeah,
it says,
5:14.
Love the Lord, love
your neighbor as yourself.
Basically, do unto others what you do unto yourself. Love your neighbor as yourself.
I mean, I like that you're saying it in multiple ways.
Yeah, because that's another way of saying it. Do unto others what you do unto yourself. Love your neighbors as yourself.
Yeah.
But something interesting we read in the book of, if you can open for us, John chapter 15, verse 12. Jesus was talking about, if you love me, you will keep my commands. Jesus personalized this command.
This is my... No. I think it makes sense to start from verse 9.
Okay.
I have loved you,
yes,
even as Father has loved me.
Mm-hmm.
Remain in my love.
Mm-hmm.
When you obey my commandments,
mm-hmm,
you remain in my love.
Mm-hmm.
Just as I obey my Father's commandments,
and I remain
in his love.
Yes.
I have told you these things so that you will be filled with joy.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, your joy will overflow.
Mm-hmm.
This is my commandment.
This is my commandment.
Love each other in the same way I have loved you. There's no greater love than to lay down one's life for one's friends.
Mm-hmm.
You're my friends if you do what I command.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, verse 17. If you scroll to verse 17, this is my command.
Mm-hmm.
Love each other.
Love each other.
You're gonna give us more insight into this. I'm gonna push it to you.
Yeah.
But before I push it to you, there's something that catches my attention.
Yeah.
Again here.
Mm-hmm.
Verse 9, my love.
Mm-hmm.
Verse 10, my commandments.
Mm-hmm.
I obey my Father's commandments.
Mm-hmm.
His love.
Mm-hmm.
You're not seeing that trend.
Mm.
Christ says, my love. Remain in my love.
In my love.
Obey my commandments.
Yes.
Then it says in that same verse 10, my Father's commandments remain in my own Father's love.
Yes.
His love. Then he says, this is my commandment.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's just what you're saying. There's certain personalization of a specific command.
Exactly.
And my Father's command sort of seems different from this son's command, even though they are related.
No.
I push it to you.
I
set you up.
They're not different. Let me tell you.
Okay.
The reason why they appear different, first of all, is because of the reference point of the command.
Okay. In the Matthew 22 super commandments that we read, it says, love your neighbors as you love yourself. Meaning that the standard of love is what you can do unto yourself, do unto others. Now, the reason why it appears different, but what Jesus says, the reference in Jesus' command is love yourselves as I have loved you. When God gave that command to the children of Israel, God had not walked the earth. The perfect embodiment of love, the perfect example to look at when you want to understand love, had not yet walked the earth. Yeah.
So that's why God will say, okay, if you know you won't cut your own body, why cut someone else's body? If you know you will not steal from yourself, why steal from others? So the reference
was
ourselves. But now that love, God is love. Now that love has walked the earth, now that love has become a person, and he has revealed himself to us. John says, the person that we saw him, we touched him with our hands, we heard him, the word of life himself. Now that he has walked the earth, we cannot be the reference again for love. Because everything about us fails. Our aspirations are always self-centered.
It fails.
You know what I'm saying?
I mean, look at Matthew 19. They were talking about divorce, and Moses says, and Jesus said, Moses gave you this law
because of your heart,
to appease you guys.
Because
you guys will not stop.
You are a hard-hearted people. If you want it, you will get it.
So there has to be a law for you.
They did the same thing to Saul. They made Saul. Now you can say that Saul disobeyed, but when I have to.
I mean, don't give excuse for Saul.
See,
don't even give excuse for Saul.
It is compassion. When I read First Samuel, I see him say that the people. Honestly,
even as a leader today,
my brother, I
put
myself in his shoes.
I can't give excuse for him, but I can relate.
People can be the people. If they want something, they get it, and they can. It
takes a great courage to look at people
and look at God and say,
what they want.
I will do what God wants. It's a lot.
It's a lot.
It's not easy for me to just say, look at that man called Saul. He just danced with
but then again, that is what it means to follow God.
Exactly. So back to the point we're trying to make. the reference now for love is Jesus. Jesus is now the perfection of love. I mean, John was saying in 1 John 3 verse 16, and this is how we know what love is. Jesus laid his life down for his friend. And we ought also to lay our lives down. So why is John saying that? Because now we have a reference for love.
Yeah.
Before we say
that passage you just mentioned now.
1 John 3 verse 16.
Yeah, go ahead.
You know what I'm saying? So now we have a reference. That's why Christ will not come and say, my command is to love yourselves, love your neighbor as yourself. Do you love yourself? It's only a man that loves himself that will even give his life to Jesus Christ, because salvation is self-love. Escaping
salvation is self-love.
Is the highest mode of self-love, because if you really love yourself, you will escape God's fire. God's judgment is coming. Anybody who really loves himself.
And hell is as sure as God is as sure.
Yes, now, because you see, God has made the promise that John 3 verse 17, and this is the basis of the condemnation. Men, they loved 17 to 19.
Yeah.
They loved darkness, and that's why they are judged. So anybody, if you love yourself enough, take God's way of escape.
Yeah.
So Christ is saying that the people I'm looking at here, they don't even understand what it means to even love themselves. How can they now love others the way they love themselves? But I am the perfect example of love. So now I'm the standard. So the commands are not different.
You can't even say you have entered into the salvation God offers.
Yep.
You can't say you have really entered. I'm not talking about all this mindless salvation people are experiencing today. I use the word deliberately. People don't know what they experienced. They just experienced it.
A salvation that is not based on a response to a gospel.
Exactly.
A salvation that is just based on
there's no thinking,
on engagement, on a fad.
People's minds are not engaged in the process. If you have really gone through the gates of salvation, you would appreciate what it means to be selfless.
Yes.
Because Jesus, the whole point of salvation, the whole point of his sacrifice is selflessness.
I was sharing on my status yesterday, and I was saying on my WhatsApp status that look here, all this our attempt to be braggadocious, if there's a word like that.
Braggadocious, DK and his big words.
To show power, to display power. We met a man who, though having that power, was not willing to use it. Now, he used it, but never used it for himself.
For his own benefit. That's
what Paul was saying in Ephesians 2 verse 5. He was saying, though God did not cling to the privileges of being God.
No, he has said it before in 2 to 3. He was talking about, don't look out for your own interests, but the interest of others.
And that's why he said in verse 5, let this mind be in you, which was also in Christ. The problem we have is that we always read, let this mind be in you, which was also in Christ, and we stop there. There's something that was being said before that verse. There's something that was said after that verse. Selflessness, and no man can be truly selfless by himself. We must keep looking at an example. His name is Jesus Christ.
His name is Jesus Christ.
And that is why the greatest in the kingdom is the one who obeys the command and teaches others too. So the command is not now. If you hear a believer still saying God's command is love your neighbor as yourself, that means he's still putting himself as a reference point.
Let's blow that open a little more.
Okay.
Love your neighbor as yourself.
Yes.
The scope is, when you say love your neighbor, who is your neighbor? That's the question that comes up.
The parable of the Good Samaritan. That's how Christ explains what a neighbor is.
And we see in that parable, in the context of the story, there was a Samaritan who loved a Jewish man, and there were other Jews
who went the extra mile.
So we see that this new commandment Jesus is giving is fundamentally among those who belong to him. It's not even the law of God captures our interaction with the world. Love your neighbor as yourself. And in that sense, who is your neighbor? It's anybody that you have the capacity to help.
Yes.
And that is unrestricted to Christians. It can be Hindu, Muslim, atheist, anybody. The law applies in that sense. That's how Christians should live their lives out, interacting with the rest of the world.
Yeah.
But this my commandment that Jesus mentioned in John 15, the scope is also specific.
Yeah.
You and I, fellow believers.
Yes.
Christ was
love yourselves as I have loved you.
As I have loved you. And First John also talks about First John reference to 3 also specifically mentions the scope. Why is this important? Because when you're thinking about the picture Jesus painted about the judgment between sheep and goat, it then becomes important.
I mean, Jesus said it clearly that when they asked him, when did we ever see you and do all these things to you? He said, when you did it to the least of these, my brothers and sisters.
And these, my brothers and sisters,
are his body, basically.
Are his body. How do we know? Because his brothers and sisters and his mother showed up one day.
Yes.
And people said, Master, your mother and your brothers are outside. And Jesus said to them,
who are my brothers?
Who are my brothers?
Who's my mother?
It's those who do the will of God.
Yes. And the will of God is to obey the Son. The will of God is to obey the Son.
So if we are bringing this to a head, because we have to wrap this episode up.
Yeah.
If we're bringing this to a head, we are saying that the greatest in the kingdom are those who have the kind of love Jesus had for them, for their brethren.
You have said it all. That's summary. The greatest in God's kingdom are those who love their brethren the way Jesus loved them.
So now it will make sense why the sheep,
not the way we choose to love,
exactly,
but the way Jesus
loves.
Yes.
And it makes sense now. The judgment of putting the sheep on his right.
I said it before.
Those who were listening to him in the context of the body of things he has been teaching.
That's the problem.
It makes sense.
That's the problem we're going to talk about in the next episode. The line he just dropped. Those who are actually listening to him. Because we have a fundamental problem in the Nigerian church today.
It's not the Nigerian church.
Even the global church.
Yeah, it's a global church.
People are inventing a new Christianity.
And they are bold-facedly defending it.
Because sometimes you're looking at what people are doing, you are engaging them about what they're doing sometimes, and you're saying, but this is not what Jesus said.
You are engaging them from the basis of your own engagement is from what Jesus said. But they have a entirely different basis upon which they are engaging you.
What is the Christian faith after what Jesus said?
It does not exist.
You can say my bewilderment. I can't process what we're doing. The Christianity is Jesus and his teachings.
Period. It's called Christianity because it's Jesus and his teachings. It's not Elijahity or Mosesity or Davidity. It's Christianity.
So look forward to that in our next episode.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking time to be a part of this conversation. We encourage you to leave a comment.
Yep.
Click like, share, subscribe to Verbal Information TV
so I can get notified when the episode comes up.
Yeah, and turn on notifications.
Yes.
Every Thursday at 2 p.m.
Yep.
This program is going to come up. I hope that you're put it in your calendar and expecting to see it, because
and we know that you're always blessed. We know you're always blessed.
It's going to come up on Thursday
Yeah.
at 2 p.m.
Yep.
Every week by the grace of God. Oh. I mean, and this is powered by One Body Church. One Body Church, she is based here in Lagos, Nigeria.
In Yaba,
Lagos, here in Nigeria. And we invite you to join us in fellowship every Wednesday night, 6 p.m.
6 p.m.
Sunday, 9 a.m.
by 9 a.m.
God bless you. See you in the next episode. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching Revival and Reformation Television.